welcome to Ellis Mowers and More. This machine might be familiar to you if you've watched the channel. This is an E100 I sold sometime within the past 2 years. I can't remember if I got it last year or the year before. But what this needed when I originally got it, it only had, I think, somewhere between 60 and 80 hours on it. And the camshaft compression release was broke on it, was done. So I had to replace that. Did that, fixed it, sold it. Got a little over 100 hours on it now, and it's got a big oil leak. So I'm going to get this thing cleaned off, washed off. I'm going to show you where the oil leak is, and we're going to go ahead and fix it while we're here today. So let's go ahead and get started. So the oil leak that this has is actually coming from under the engine. I have actually put the seal, the lower oil seal that was on here, on it just to make sure that it ran. I threw some oil in it. You can see it's leaking, but the actual oil seal came completely off of the sump. So I do just want to show you, though, it hasn't leaked out that much overnight. I'm going to run it very briefly just so that you can see that it does run. I don't want to run it too long because I'm about to tear it apart. But it's a shame because not even 2 years ago I was in this machine putting a camshaft in it. It's only got 100 hours on it, so crazy. But we're going to do that. I don't have a seal to replace the old one with. I tried just for kicks. I put it on there just to see if it would, not leak. But there's really no good way of putting on that seal without really taking the engine off and really taking the sump off to get it down in there nice and tight. So I'm going to show you what you got to do to take this off here first. But what I've got over here is I've actually got a good sump with a good seal from what I can gather. And I'm just literally going to slap this on here as opposed to, because I don't have a replacement seal, and I don't know if there's something going on in the ring around the mounting area around the seal. So how to take this engine off. On this setup, you've got a fuel pump that's married into basically the engine cover. So what I like to do is just take all the lines off the fuel pump, keep the fuel pump on the engine cover. You don't have to take the engine cover to take off the engine on these, which is nice. So disconnect all the fuel lines, put a clamp there. I did put a battery in it just to see if it would work. And I may have to replace the battery because the battery was 5 years old. So usually after 4, I just replace them. 8mm to take the throttle cable off. You don't have to take any of this off, but what you do have to take on this side off is this 6-pin plug right here and this starter nut. And between all of that, I think that's all you've got to take off in order to get the engine off. The top here, the bottom, a 5/8 bolt to take off the double stack pulley. If you have an impact, that's ideal. And then it's either a half, a 9/16, or a 5/8 to get these 4 mounting bolts off down here. Once you get off the double stack pulley, these should be pretty easily accessible on this. If you have a mower jack also, to lift it up so you have better access to stuff, you should be good to go. Also, another handy thing that you can probably take off to make life a little bit easier is the exhaust, but you may be able to clear it. We're going to try and just clear it with the exhaust on it. You shouldn't have to take the head off. You shouldn't have to take the engine cover off. You just got to take those few things off, which I'm going to do. I'm going to pull this thing off. We're going to put it on a table somewhere after I drain the oil back out of it, and we will replace that sump gasket as well as the regular oil gasket. I do just want to make sure that there's nothing crazy going on inside the engine as well. And it seems like taking the seal off, or taking the sump off and putting the seal in, is going to be the way to go in order for longevity here. There's probably easier, better ways to do this, but with what I've got right here to get this guy going, this is probably the best method for me. Okay, so I've got everything off of all the mounting bolts and everything off, so it should just be able to lift everything off and drain the oil. And so what I'm going to do is just take it, hopefully lift this thing off and put it right on here. So I'll get the mower jack out of the way, and we'll give this thing a shot. Hopefully I can clear the exhaust here and not have to pull it off. We'll see. Yeah. So just like that. Turn it over on its side here. And bring it over here. You can see where it's been leaking around the seal. I don't know why it popped the seal off originally, but it just did. So like I said, I've got a whole nother sump that I'm gonna just take and put on this. I know it's kind of counterintuitive, but with the whole process of trying to put this seal on, I don't really have like a good seal tool and to tap down in. And so what I'm going to do is just take the sump off, put the new sump on, because I don't know if there's like an issue around here anywhere either. So I want to make sure, to give the customer the best option, because I don't want to have to see this mower aside from regular service. So don't want to have to go back and do any more work, unnecessary work, that is. So what I've got to do here now is take these 3 5/16 off and these 1/2 inch bolts off to get this sump off. I like to keep the oil filters on over here because I use a rubber mallet to kind of pop everything up off. I am going to take this the drain tube off as well for the new sump. The new sump is basically prepared and ready to go. I just got to take this old one off, scrape the gasket material off of the engine portion of this, which hopefully this gasket will come off pretty easily because I just put it on a couple years ago. So we'll see how that works, and we'll get this thing ready to rock and roll here, and let y'all rejoin me once I get all the bolts off here. So I've got all the bolts loosened up. Took the 3 5/16, more like 8mm bolts off the top here. All this does is it makes it easier to get get it off the oil pump without damaging it and stuff. So I'm going to take this and just hammer it where the oil filter is. We're going to reuse this oil filter or anything. So, and we're going to just kind of tap it up. You can see we got it out there. Before I take this sump gasket off though, I am going to take off this drain here. So let me back y'all up a little bit, get this off while we're here. That way that's done. I'm not trying to fight it later. Should just be able to come off now, hopefully, as long as we've got all the bolts out. Yep, should just be able to pull it off. Something just fell down there. That'd been the oil pump that just fell down there, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's all that was. So again, just make sure that I'm just going to take this outside here. Grab the oil pump that fell down there. believe that was the only thing. The inside of this engine still looks pretty good. Let's see. Just doing a once over of everything, just to make sure everything looks good. That should have been the only thing that fell down through there, that oil pump. So, good. And also the good news is there's not a lot of scraping for me to do, because it looks like this gasket came off for the most part. I'm going to take a scraper to it to get all of it scraped off and all the residue. And then, like I said, what we'll do is we'll wipe everything down, make sure everything's nice and clean before we put the new, before we put the replacement sump on that should have a good oil seal. Alright, so here comes the fun part, getting this back on. One thing that you need to do is make sure that the governor stays on the little governor arm here. Also, if there's any items that go down underneath into the engine, like we had with the oil pump, make sure you get them. Lay your gasket out, do your best to make sure that it's in a good spot. It's a little tricky because a lot of times these gaskets come folded up. If they don't, then you're already a little bit ahead as well. So I've done as much cleaning as I could on this to get it as good as I can, especially around the seal here. So we'll take this sump, the new sump here, and we're going to get it down there. Again, make sure that your governor stays where it needs to. Don't try and force anything down here either. So you gotta be careful. You gotta make sure that your seal gets in there like it's supposed to. Don't want to mess anything up with it either. So gotta go nice and gently. Make sure that seal gets in like it's supposed to, because you don't want to have that spring pop out of it. I think we've basically got it in there now, so that's good. Let's see. There. Let's tap her in a little bit more. There we go. Alright, so that's in. Make sure our governor is where it is supposed to be. Let me shine a little light down in there. Yes, okay, good. And now I'm just going to make sure that our gasket is where it's supposed to be. It kind of looks like it is. What I'm going to do now is get all the bolts and these first couple here. I want to make sure that it's going to go in all the holes here on the gasket before we tap down everything a little bit more, so that we don't mess this gasket up. So I'm going to do that and tap it a little bit more. You want to make sure that your seal looks like this whenever you put it in, nice and rounded, no check marks or anything like that, or no wrinkles or anything like that. So that one went in pretty smoothly. Make sure that your governor stayed where it's supposed to. I'm going to get this on, put all of this on, and then we have the oil pump itself to put back in here. I'll show you how to do that here next. But for now, I'm just going to knock this down, put these in, torque them to about 18 foot-pounds is what they're supposed to be, and then we should be good. Everything should be sealed again. Okay, got all the bolts torqued here to 18 foot-pounds. I am taking the little oil cap off here. What you've got to do here as well, unless you can finagle it perfectly, is you've got to take off this little star thing, this little piece right here, four-sided piece, excuse me, and then we can take the oil pump itself. You don't want to forget this, because this the oil filter setups need this for proper lubrication. So make sure I got it in the right way. It looks like it's both double-sided, so I think we can put it in either way. And then we can put the oil pump itself in. Let's see how we can manage this. There we go. Just line everything up. Just check the gasket here, make sure it's good, sealed nice and tight. Those, honestly, I don't think those ever leak, because they're always oiled, which means that the O-ring itself is not going to dry up or anything. So, and then just a little 1/4" impact. Put your 8 millimeters back, and I've got this thing ready to mount back up. So let me go ahead and mount it back up again. Just 4 mounting bolts. I'll put everything back on like I showed y'all how to take it off, in terms of the throttle cable, the fuel lines, the starter cable, and the 6-pin connector. I'll get the this on here as well for the dips. I keep calling this thing the dipstick. I got to put the dipstick back in, but got to put this piece back in as well. The oil drain tube. Let's say that together. Oil drain tube. If you know me long enough, you know I mix my words up very easily. It's something that I have issues with. So nice and tight there. Not too tight, because you don't want to break it off. Let's put it back on. Put some oil in it. Make sure it doesn't leak. Alright guys, so it's time to start it up. I just did a preliminary start just to make sure. We're going to let it... Alright, so off camera, I put it together back on. I had a big oil leak on the left side, and that was because something was going on with the seal with the oil pump, and so I had to take that back off, reseat it. I changed and put the O-ring off the old sump onto the one that's on here, and we're not leaking anymore. So we're good there now. I'll crank it up for you, show you that it runs. I tell you what though, especially these Briggs singles built around like 2016. This one's a 2018 model. These things sound, they just sound so cheap, which is terrible. But it's all back together. It's all good. I'm going to get the mower deck back on it, sharpen the blades. I've already cleaned that up as well, put the guides back on it. We're going to give this thing a test. I'll make sure the deck is level on it as well. Tires are aired up. And we'll be done, hopefully, with this machine here in just a couple of minutes. So in the last clip when I said I didn't really like the way that it sounded when it was running, well, not too long after that, the connecting rod broke on it. So it's unfortunate. I think that this probably started leaking while it was running and just got really low and still ran, still had compression. After we put it all together, everything looked good on the inside from what I can tell. But guys, these newer Briggs are made out of glass. I mean, it just, like, I'm almost afraid to work on them because, or even go in them because of how fragile they seem to be nowadays. So I'll show you. You can see that there's absolutely no compression at all. So we got about a whopping 15 minutes of run time out of it. The good news is I have an exact replacement engine in the back there. I'm just going to go ahead and knock this out because I'm ready to be done with this. I've got a lot of work coming in, and this needs to be done. Also, this has the plastic transmission in it, and it's not pulling very well right now. I don't know if it's because it needs to be cleaned out back there, or if there's since it got oil on the drive belt, but the drive belt's turning like it's supposed to, so it's like, what's going on there? But I got to get the engine swapped in order to diagnose that. So fun times here. I'm going to do the engine swap off camera. I've basically shown you everything how to take an engine out of this thing in this video already. And I'll let y'all revisit me when I get this back going again. And we will then move forward with trying to get this thing to drive better than it is. That's why it's always good to have some spare engines around, because you never know when you might need one. I tell you what, though, I don't know what Briggs is doing from about the year 2016 to 2018, but the failure rate on those years especially, this one's 2018, seems astronomical. Now this one I think is like a 2010 or 2012 model year. Yeah, 2010 based on the code. I forgot to put the little breather tube, so I got a little bit of oil on this side, but I'll get that cleaned up before we send it on. You can see I've mowed maybe about, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, because we finally got a little bit of, well, not finally, but I got, them purple flowers growing in the yard, so got that going on, got that cut, everything's good, and as you can see, everything's working fine, which is great. I'll crank it up for y'all. One of the spindles is a little bit slow because of the blade break, because it just seems like it always is on this, but should be good nonetheless. I'll blow it off make sure that, run it a little bit longer, make sure the oil is good again. So you never know sometimes when. I kind of was actually expecting that we were going to have to do this. I wish that it would have exposed itself before I did all that work at the beginning of the video, but sometimes that's just the way that it is. Really unfortunate for the customer. Who knows why that oil seal decided it wanted to fall off. I could tell that it had been ran for a decent little while though, because there was oil kind of like caked everywhere and stuff. So I'm sure this thing had been running low on oil quite a bit. With the age of this engine being a 2018, it seems like Briggs wanted to cheapen out on a lot of stuff, and these things are like glass when it comes to everything, really. I mean, it's just terrible how bad they are. But either way, we're done with this. I'm going to send it back on to its owner, and hopefully he'll be good to go for the season. I did mention the transmission. It's got one of them general transmissions in it. A little bit slow on hills, works fine. He doesn't have a really big slope or anything. And as long as you don't like mat it all the time, this thing drives just fine. It's just, again, terrible engine, terrible transmission. But again, it's like these mowers bring decent money, so it's like I'm not gonna not sell them, because if they're taken care of, they'll probably be just fine. This one's been decently taken care of. It's just unfortunate for the oil seal to have done what it did. However, we got it fixed. Get back to them in time for the cutting season, because it is time to start cutting grass around here. Thanks again for watching this small engine repair video. I really do hope that y'all enjoyed it, and hopefully this is not a omen for what's to come for the rest of the year. I don't really want to be changing out people's engines too much, although we've got some more here in the shop that will need some engines put on, but they've already come in blown up, so that's a different story. Thanks again, y'all, and I'll catch y'all on the next video.